When Mary calls us to holiness, she calls us to purity. Purity of mind, thought, feeling, words, actions of every kind. Mother Mary calls us to holiness. Yet this is not a false sense of feigning purity. It is the entering into a deep communion with God within ourselves, to know God, to feel God, and to experience true wholeness of body, mind, and soul, all wrapped in spirit. Holiness is something that few actually seek in the highest sense, because it calls us to a deeper commitment to God consciousness, to introspection of the highest order, considering every aspect of ourself that is at play in our life, and many things waiting to be resolved, or at least tended to the extent that we master our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions, our words, our deeds. So we're all moving toward God's self-mastery, toward the ascension, and to master our thoughts, feelings, emotions is so important, and there's always opportunities to grow and to learn and to experience a full range of virtues and all the things that allow us to experience those virtues, which are testings and are challenges and are little things that arise in the world, in our day-to-day life, that when we're conscious, we can actually move through with grace. If we're not as conscious, things happen where grace isn't there. And so one of the purposes of moving toward holiness is to experience God's grace, because grace elicits holiness and holiness elicits grace. It's a two-way street. And when we can be in a state of grace, like Mother Mary, that wholeness that overshines us and the holiness that bespeaks God's presence in our life is so amazing and so beautiful and so glorious in the sense that God is with us, that when we know that and experience it, we really seek for nothing else, save to stay and remain in that sense of holiness. And that holiness always is expressive of love. So when Mary calls us to holiness, she calls us to purity. Purity of mind, thought, feeling, words, actions of every kind. And to be considerate, to be authentic, and to be sincere allows us to maintain that state of grace where holiness abides as a reverential state of being in our souls. For the soul is the chalice of holiness. And when the soul is representative of what it is meant to be as a balanced state of being where Father and Mother can manifest in our consciousness in harmony and balance, then the chalice can be filled with that light of holiness and purity. The purer we are in our thoughts, the higher we will go in God consciousness to soar with the angels, the higher we can go in our meditations to experience the divine realms, the higher we can go to know God at every level in a more subtle aspect of the divine. So the subtleties of the divine worlds will arise in our consciousness when we choose holiness again and again over banality, over little imps of evil and darkness that can come to just try to weasel their way into our lives and make us do things or say things or engage in things that aren't so pearly precious. So the pearl of great price really is the loveliness and the simplicity of this state of grace that is always there when we are loving and we are in a state of holiness. The pearl of great price is something that we will give up everything else to find and cherish and use as a stepping stone toward fully experiencing the divine in our being. And once having experienced God in the greatest love that we can find and know through the overflowing of givingness to life, which a mother naturally does when she gives birth to a child and then nurses that child and raises that child. This is one of the greatest actions and things that any being can do. To be a mother means to nurture life. Those 9 months where the child is growing in the womb can be difficult, and yet you know at the end of that cycle, when the child emerges from your womb, it's the most amazing experience you can have of how life has been born and now is in the outer world, outside of your womb, there to then love, to cherish, and to raise. And the glory of every birth is the glory of God coming into incarnation as a spirit spark within the soul of that individual that is unique, like the snowflake that is different than every other snowflake. And the uniqueness of that life form is something that we cherish, and we attempt as mothers and fathers, as parents, to allow that spark to develop into the full-grown manifestation of a beautiful son or daughter of God. And as we see our children grow, and as we nurture the field of energy that is their being, that is their consciousness, that is their essence, it's just a beautiful thing to witness to the glory of God taking hold of a being and maturing within that being and becoming godly and magnanimous and truly authentic and sincere in that spirit's own divine right to live, move, and have its being in this world. What's so impressive that I find when I do the daily rosary is that every time I commune with Mother Mary or Kuan Yin or the other divine mothers, I find something new of my own soulfulness within the experience of emptying out my own being of what is of lack or need or desire, to enter into this state of communion where love is given forth as the words that I speak and as the songs that I sing that honor the Divine Mother, and then she always comes to bless me and to grace me with her consciousness or energy field to make my day go better. If I don't engage in that mystical union of speaking these holy words, it's not so much the words that do it, it is my devotion and my elevation of my consciousness to enter into this communion. I'm always graced with something that is glorious that can be of benefit to myself and others that day. And if I don't engage, I don't have the same level of that grace and that holiness in my aura in my life, and things can go wrong. So it's like taking your daily shower or bath or whatever, the cleansing, And the cleansing occurs, and it's a deeper cleansing. It's like getting rid of deeper and deeper levels of gunk inside of yourself. And if you really desire to be clean and whole, the daily cleanse is important. And it's like, it's nurturing to your being to be clean, right? I mean, you feel better when you're clean. Not that we always have to be physically clean, because sometimes we're busy and we're engaged in doing things where we get sweaty and all that. Yet, what I'm speaking of is the spiritual cleanliness and the holiness that comes when we do the deep cleaning, because we're willing to get on our hands and knees and plant or weed or clean our floors and our toilets and our showers and our tubs, and really desire for there to be purity in every way, so that we can have a field of energy in our home and our being that is godly. Cleanliness is next to godliness. And purity is a means whereby that holiness can come to fruition in such a beautiful way that we just feel fresh, new, we feel alive, we feel more alive. So Mother Mary's desire is for us to feel more alive each day. And that aliveness is our spirit coming into fruition, budding, flowering, and then fructifying. It's an amazing thing to watch plants and trees. The budding, the flowering, and the fructifying. Each of these three aspects of the completion of a cycle of life and nature is also happening within us. What is our budding? It's kind of the awakening in spring. We awaken and we bud. And the flowering is just the beautiful aerating of the air with the flower of our soulfulness. And then finally the fructifying, the fruit comes to completion and ripeness. Well, that's our soul really giving birth to something greater than self. It's giving birth to God again and again in our life. So choose to be a holy son or daughter of God when you pour out love daily to others, first to God, then to your divine self and the inner self, and then to others. Because this pouring out of love will refresh you, invigorate you, make you happier, and give you peace. When you love, you're in a state of inner peace. When you're not loving, things can go awry because maybe something's not quite right in your thought or feeling world, and so generate and regenerate that love, and you'll find yourself in a new state of awareness where things don't bother you so much. You're not in a state of recrimination or blame or shame about anything or anyone. The world doesn't really bother you and what's happening in the world because you're above it. You're really above it. So Mona told me this morning, well, if you don't feel so well, don't be in front of a computer so much doing things, because when you're in front of that screen and you're watching this or that, it can affect you, and it can affect your soul, really. It can affect your consciousness. So Mother Mary affirms that and says, get out in nature as much as you can. And nature will nurture you, and you will be above the mass consciousness and the divisiveness, the duality that can impact your physical health, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. Nature will help to bring balance and harmony again to your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual health and vitality. Nature is the great healer, and the mother is Mother Nature.